What is up, guys? Wraec is here with a new video, and today I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on my progress in the Void campaign. I didn't do that for quite some time, I have to say. I think I didn't do anything besides one live stream on the entire island number 3, and then I actually finished it shortly before the 4th island was actually released. And you never heard from me again. Well, you heard from me, of course, but not in regards to Void campaign. So I thought we would look at some gameplay, look at the lineups I have used to clear that actually, and what I plan to do, what I like and what I don't like about current state of Void campaign, and basically the view on Void campaign from very much endgame player, you might say whale. So without further ado, let's jump into the first gameplays that I've recorded for you. So starting off with 419 here. 419 is actually a very mean stage, and not for the reason you might think. It is of course difficult because of the 3 Homes Youngs that do extra attacks on random enemies and yeah, do a crap ton of damage that can just kill your enemies, and they are tanky, and you have the Sherlock, so CC is not really an option, and all in all it's just very difficult. But the very mean part about this stage is actually 418 is the stage most people are currently stuck at, and that is right before this stage, and the stage 418 is actually 2 times Sherlock, 2 times Holmes Young, 2 times Penny. So the second you basically pass this stage, the 418 stage, and you think, yeah, I'm done with the Holmes Young and everything, you instantly face the next Holmes Young stage and are back in the same peril once again. Which happens quite a lot in on Island 4, I have to say. You clear like the one stage that you considered really difficult, and the next stage right afterwards is even more insane, or at least as insane as the stage before, and you hardly get any breaks. We will look at the 4-3 later, the 4-3 area, which I consider like the new 2-5. 2-5 was known to be very difficult with the 3 Mim, 3 Carry stage, and 3 Valkyr, and all that good stuff. And a lot of people, I think, are still stuck there. And 4-3 is basically the same, but with higher stats, and not these same waves though. There are some changes to the waves in the 4th area. For example, they added Mockman to the 4th area, and he's the boss, I think, of 4-3. Not quite sure about that. We will see that later. But you get to fight him, and I have to say, the first time I encountered him, I thought like, oh, that is going to be difficult. It was like a stage with 2 LOEs and 2 Gustins and Mockman, and I thought like, if we can clear that, it might be hard. And then I one-shot it, and I realized, yeah, he doesn't have any sublimations if he's an enemy there, and Mockman really only gets good if you have the sublimations for him. And if you don't, he kind of isn't that good. So even though we have the Neutron Silent Zero in there, it's not that much of a problem. But there is a big problem. These areas 5 and 6 are already in the game files, so it's only a question of time until we will see those. And there might be Ezreal in one of those stages, and by God, I don't want to face a wave with like multiple Ezreals or something. That would be very mean and something I'm not looking forward to, definitely not. Reduced heal effect and damage on death and all the good stuff. No, I don't need this. That would be no fun. What you're currently seeing, by the way, is my more defensive lineup. I switched that up. I had basically 3 variants of this lineup, I think. One with Demon Belts and some Receptors, and I used a Starwing Jara instead of the Halora, and basically Demon Belts on everything but the Starwing Jara and the Aspen, which was like the CC lineup. Then I had this lineup, which has crowns on everything, and the Mockman in the front row. I used Mockman core the entire way. When Mockman is in the front row, that gives you like very decent damage reduce. It's a core liberation 4 core, so 24% damage reduce or something. It's pretty good. And in the back row, it actually fixes your crit and provides a very good crit buff, which is pretty nice to have on turn 1. To make your hits, especially with Mockman SFX, more consistent. So that is pretty nice and was a core I very much liked, even though there are certainly better cores, like I can refer you to my core video on that. My top 3 cores, I think all of those would be rather nice, but currently the Mockman core is working rather well for me. The other lineup was more of a burst lineup. There are some stages that you just can't clear with crowns, mainly CC stages, and some stages that just have a huge amount of burst, especially the one I'm currently facing. 3 Wraecs, 3 Garudas. Yeah, you can have crowns there, it really doesn't matter. They will burst through that, which is in itself another topic. I kind of feel like those enemies do far too much damage. Often enough, crowns are just not a good way to defend yourself, and as you can see there, Delasium just instantly one-shotting us here, or shooting us into Unbending Will. Of course, we don't have crowns here, but one stage I was particularly thinking about was like the 3 Valkyr, 3 Flame Strike stage on 4-3, I think it was. On turn 1, I had made a screenshot, post that on the Discord, where like all my heroes popped Unbending Will from 1 hit from those Valkyrs, and they all used crowns, so it kind of started me thinking about defensive layers in this game, and it's kind of bad if Unbending Will becomes your main defense and basically stat upgrades don't really matter anymore aside from attack, because like my V0 EOS in there with a Demon Bell, and she had exactly as much chance to survive as my Mockman that was like home owner and 80 and everything. So finishing up here. And of course this was the case because the EOS and the Mockman have the same amount of layers of Unbending Will. So I think that is kind of bad. I think there should be more access to different defense methods, and one of those, the latest addition on defensive layers was actually in the A tier area with Divine Lock and Holy Armor, but sadly that is inaccessible for most heroes. Even for me, I have a lot of A tiers of course, but for most of the player base it's just no option. And I don't know if I like the way this takes actually. Because if the enemies just out-damage us that much, that you no longer need to use a crown, because it doesn't matter, there's like a billion damage coming in per hit, and it shoots you into Unbending Will anyway, then this is kind of weird. And also brings a lot of RNG to a fight, as you will just have to wait for the right distribution of the attacks from the enemy to not hit one of your heroes like 2 or 3 times to kill it. And in general, RNG is already quite a lot of the time you will spend on Void Campaign, as you're definitely in area 4 slower than the enemies, so you have to hope for your heroes to not get CC'd, you have to hope for your heroes to not die, to not get hit multiple times, and it just becomes annoying. So let's have a look at these stages actually. I want to have a look at 4-3 with you guys, because I really hated 4-3 to be honest. Well, let's just look at 4-2. What was 4-2? Yeah, most of those were actually pretty alright. Against something like this, you of course used Burst, and most of those were Burst. If you're stuck here, by the way, keep in mind that the was it the Glorious or the Freyas? One of those target highest attack and one target highest crit, and I actually used my Ferrokin Vessel to divert some of those attacks to her instead of my main damage dealers Mockman and SFX, which is a way you can easily get through the stage. This one was dangerous, but 4-3 is really 4-3 was really annoying. It took so long to clear, especially this stage with like the double ticks, and again you have the Holmes Young and the Sherlock, and ticks basically destroying your attack with attack swaps just made this so annoying. So annoying. And sadly I don't have a video of this fight. But I was very happy to be through there. You can definitely say so. I think I used about the same strat as we saw in the 419 fight earlier. So that was something. Then we faced this glorious stage. A lot of you will know this from Area 2-5. There's the same stage actually, with the 3 King Bartons and the 3 Cthulhas. CC is of course an option here to get rid of the Cthulha counterattacks, or you can burst them down. I think I did it with burst actually. Got a kill on one of the Cthulhas with the SFX. basically the flow of the fight with my burst team is always weaken the enemies with the Mockman, and then SFX attacks right after and kills one enemy to get impeccable flow. Then we feed her an active for turn 2, attack, and hope that enough dies that we can actually do that. And for that we use crit chance, crit damage, precision imprints, which is likely the most damage you can get for the SFX. I experimented with different stones and ran out of dust, of course, and settled with like a skill damage precision stone for now on the Mockman, which is kind of interesting. Skill damage is pretty strong on Mockman, though I was aiming for a crit chance, crit damage attack stone that I didn't get yet, but the skill damage precision stone worked rather well. Another Holmes Young stage, of course. This one was quite alright. Holmes Young is always annoying because he can just dove your entire team and then you're dead. But those were pretty alright. Like some lowest life action and with crowns, and was no problem really. This one, yeah, it's really the same. You have some Valkyries here that will hit you for a crap ton of damage. The Sigmund counterattacks are a bit nasty, but overall it was still quite alright. This stage is very much a lot easier with two Sigmunds in here, and not like the other stage that was also on 2-5 with like 3 Valkyries and 3 Flame Strikes, which is also on Island 4, as I said before, but like this stage is still manageable somewhat. This was very annoying actually. You have like the SFX, you have the Wraec. The SFX is faster than you. She can get a hit on one of your heroes, and even if he has a crown, the hero that she attacks, she can kill them. SQH for some counterattacks, and then you have LFA denying you the crit, and if you run Mockman in the back row, he will be faster, do a basic, and of course he can horrify your Mockman, and then you don't actually get any crits whatsoever and won't do any reasonable damage. And in all likelihood, as Mockman attacks the back row first until he starts chasing, he hits the SQH and then dies on turn 1. So you already have a huge amount of fights just waiting for the one fight where LFA doesn't CC your Mockman and he can crit and he can do damage, and then of course you need SFX to clean up the rest, and you need a really good Mockman hit to actually get in there. My Mockman had around 7.6 million attack, which isn't that much, but he had a skill damage precision stone, so still pretty decent. On SFX I ran 9 million attack actually. The Annabelle is also quite annoying. Annabelle just it is terrifying. You want to have the big damage from the impeccable flow actives on SFX, and Annabelle just denies that with her skill effect. The Rogan really wasn't too difficult, to be honest, but still a pretty scary stage. I can recommend, if you run Mockman SFX as damage dealer, put the SFX in the front row, so at least the LFA doesn't hit her, and try to get your lowest life hero somewhat close to another hero. Like I had SQH with a crown, and I had Freya with a crown, Mystic Fairy Freya, and Mystic Fairy Freya was my lowest life. But the SQH actually attacks before the SFX, so if she can land an active and can hit your can get another hero lower than your lowest life, SFX will actually target the new lowest life hero that doesn't have defense down on him, so there won't be any hero dying on turn 1, which is very beneficial if you don't want LFA to spread the CC. And then you're up here and start off with 4-3-6 and a wonderful stage that also a lot of people know and has caused a lot of pain to a lot of people, with 2 Holmes Young, 2 Sherlock, and 2 Delasiums that I solved with Burst. The Delasiums died rather early. I could hit both of them pretty far down with the SFX and actually get SFX to kill them both in one active a few times. Don't know if I did that on the winning attempt, but it was definitely possible. And if you get like a huge active off, then you are rather fine and can go beyond that, which was a very different strategy than I had used before. Oftentimes I didn't use CC Purify on stages like this for SFX. I used Dot Purify, which isn't immediately obvious that this could be good, because you think like you have Sherlock CCing you, and basically if you get 1 CC on you and it's a dove, the fight is basically over. You will never see a hero again in a match like this if he doesn't have Control Purify. And this is definitely true, and you have to hope for the one attempt where they don't CC you and where you are actually able to get to the later rounds and get a good active and good impeccable flow active with SFX, and maybe another one, and start the steamrolling and delete enemies until you get in that 1 versus 1 situation where SFX can no longer be beaten, and then you are very much so fine. 437, a pretty easy stage, not really a huge amount of problems considering we run SFX, and these Sigmunds have a lot of armor, the Pandas buff armor, but SFX ignores armor, so that wasn't too much of a problem. Olivia's speed swaps aren't that much of a problem either. They were before, but now you're slower anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The shrink can, of course, be more of a problem. Yep, and there it is, 438. If you thought the other stages before were wonderful, this one is pretty nice as well. The Valkyries will basically hit you into unbending will whatever you do. It's actually insane. The flame strikes are not that much of an issue, but more often than not, they will kill you. I actually used Suicide EOS here, get some energy drain on the enemies, and that worked out rather fine. You have to get that really late SFX impeccable flow active and kill the enemies with that. For that, most of the time you will get the kill on a flame strike, and that is quite alright actually. Keep in mind, as always against Valkyries, you don't want any CC. Even running a Ferric Investor can cause issues. You definitely don't want to run something like Starring Jara or LFA. If you have burst with Mockman and like SFX, are more than fine here. That was easy, and then the boss actually a Mockman, so really that stage compared to everything before is super easy, and actually pretty nice stage, because there is really nothing dangerous here at all if you run SFX and Mockman. And again, the pretty ridiculous loot, I think, is still a joke that you get 10 Essence Sublimation active skill, a whole lot of 10. Some people speculated that this was a remnant of the time where they actually showed that the planned cost for sublimation of skills was actually 100, and that they just didn't change that because now it's 45,000 per skill. So how would you ever get to 45,000 getting 10 sublimation essence? It's actually a joke, even if you consider that there are like hundreds of stages now. You just don't get any meaningful value. Maybe get 1,000 sublimation essence. Congratulations, any event will give you more. So that is a bit annoying. The loot gain is quite nice. We are on our way now to clearing the rest of it. I hope it's possible. Currently stuck at this nasty stage. We can look at a fight maybe. It's not properly set up, the team. The mean part about this is, of course, that you have 3 Wraecs that can all nuke your team. The triple extra attacks from the Garudas, and kind of need to run a crown on the hero in slot 1, because otherwise all of the Garuda attacks, you can see how many there actually are, will kill you. And kind of a problem for me at the moment is that I don't have any sublimations on Starwing Jara, and that actually makes, lets this happen quite often, that they just break out. The sublimations on Starwing Jara would actually make that way more difficult. And beyond that, the active skill sublimation especially would definitely help to see more enemies. I'm planning on doing some more guides on the Void campaign, especially on these stages and on Island 3 that I haven't done a lot about. I will make another video once I finish the rest of the Void campaign. We will have a look back. For now, I hope the info on these stages, 4.2 and 4.3, were interesting to you and my current impression of Void campaign. Maybe as a final thought, do I still like it? Sometimes, yes, but I kind of felt like those Holmes-Young stages and all felt very tedious. And I mean, in the end, you run them with a macro, you set the team up, and then you put it aside, and then you let it run for 10 hours. And I've definitely spent my fair share of time of some of those stages. I think the Tix one with the 2 Sherlocks, the 2 Holmes-Young, and the 2 Ticks took like 7 hours to clear. 7 hours macro, and then I think that's kind of insane. That's kind of insane, and it's a little bit too much actually. And it's all about the RNG. It's actually just RNG. You can optimize the team, of course, further, get stronger, but at this point it's all about the RNG, and I'm not quite sure if I like that. I would wish for some more mechanics to actually bring more defensive option into the game, and maybe make Divine Block and Holy Armor available outside of A tier. But we have to see what the H actually does about it. With that, I wish you guys a great week, and we will see us in the next one.